Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host of today's episode. And today on the show, I have Kyle Peters, co-founder of SimplePod, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to own and operate a business. Welcome, Kyle. So great to see you. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited for the conversation.
Yes, same here. And before we get into all things business, I would love to share with our audience a little bit about you. So take us back as far as you'd like and share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I am the co-founder of SimplePod. It's a podcast agency really targeted towards professional service providers who want to use content marketing in their marketing plan, but aren't necessarily so familiar with content on the digital age of where it is now. And they want to use podcasting top of funnel to really be I would say if you take a look at it as like a tree, the trunk of the tree to like really help them distribute their content everywhere where it needs to be. So our end goal is to like have one podcast episode basically repurpose itself out to the rest of their ecosystem, wherever that is. They can get based off that one podcast transcript, you know, reels and clips of the show, obviously. Obviously, the podcast will be there in the long form format, whether that's audio or video. And then we do like a lot of written content for, blogs, newsletters, social posts. We are really niched in towards professional service providers, not necessarily like creatives. So business owners that essentially have some kind of coaching or advisory business, and their predominant social platform is LinkedIn. So that's a little bit about what we do. I'm sure we'll dive into more of the details, but I got into that because my brother actually hosted his own show now called FI Minded. It's been through lots of iterations with the branding and everything, but it's geared towards helping young professionals get money right in their 20s. And now it's kind of evolved into helping professionals retire early from their 9 to 5. And so that just got us into this world of podcasting. We've met so many people through that. As you know, like with this, podcasting is just such a great natural um, just networking engine to meet people. Excuse me, to meet people and have just conversations like this and really expand your network.
Mm.
So we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and then it eventually ended up helping out other podcasters with their podcast and their businesses, and had a thriving business evolve from that.
That's incredible. So now how did you do that? How did you guys go from like you said your brother was had his own podcast, and how did you come to the point of, oh, this could be a service?
Yeah. I think it really stemmed from the idea of me being wanting to quit my 9 to 5. I've always been I think to own and operate a business yourself, it takes a certain stereotype, a certain demographic of person in order to like really be able to lean into that. I feel like you have to kind of be a little bit of a self-starter and maybe a little bit against the grain. And I've always known that I wanted to exit that, corporate hustle culture and maybe build something that was my own. I just get a lot of passion from doing that. And with that, I was helping my brother out with his, I guess you can call that just like a little passion project, his podcast. And like I said, since he was bringing on other business owners to kind of, fill his gaps in knowledge to interview on a show and kind of explain their expertise in the topic that they were covering. We met a lot of people. They were also podcasters because they were podcast guests. We were both really interested in expanding our knowledge in the podcast industry, but we both had our skill sets. My brother is very much someone who's really good at just being in front of people. He's really great at the business development side of our agency and just like the sales front and just getting our name out there and meeting a lot of people. And I'm more so someone who's like very centered around the product and what that
Mhm.
looks like, and trying to lead a team to continue to evolve that alongside um, where the vision of the agency is going. So I think our skill sets just kind of naturally collided with each other and ended up being kind of this yin and yang between like we would just be great business partners together. And obviously, like there's no one going into business with your brother is very interesting because there's like no one that I would trust from just like an integrity standpoint. Like that might be, I don't know if you, there might be like three skill sets that a great business partner requires. And like obviously some kind of like knowledge gap in terms of specific niche that they feel might be one of them, but integrity is definitely one of them. And like I just been able to like rely and build this with my brother without a lot of pressure of um, not knowing I could trust someone, and kind of learn this step by step with them as we've grown the business. So that's been super special. But it all just kind of circles back to doing one thing and then learning how that went and iterating and going on.
Definitely. That's really cool. It's really special. And so when did y'all start SimplePod?
Yeah, so it's been about 4 or 5 years now,
Okay.
and it's definitely evolved over time. It's hard to even say when we started because at first we were approaching it less of a business and more of just a passion project to help people. So
Hmm. When was the aha moment we were like, oh, this is this is that way out of the 9 to 5 and into something we're building together?
yeah, definitely signing our first client that cut a paycheck for us. Like at that point, we had been networking at a personal finance conference, and it's funny because I think we were both just like had this idea that we could maybe do something in terms of the podcasting industry. Editing is the obvious thing. Like most podcasters, when they get done recording, the last thing they want to do is figure out how to chop it up and get it in front of their audience.
Hmm.
Um, and so we started with just like a audio podcasting client, and we were certainly undercharging at the time, but it was just like proof of concept that like you can go out there and someone can pay you because you have a skill in a certain landscape, and you can after getting one client, then get more clients. So it's just funny how it's all evolved. But like if I look back at who I am now and who I was then, there's just it'd be so much that I would have to tell myself.
Definitely. Now, looking at who you are now and what you're building now, what does your day-to-day look like? And is it different from your brothers? Like, or do you each have a different wheelhouse in SimplePod?
Yeah, definitely way different. Like I said, he's on the business development front, so he's creating a lot of content. He's very active on LinkedIn. We push out a email newsletter every other week. We are recording podcast episodes, which he really takes the front. We have a podcast ourselves. We are always coaching clients, and our skill sets there slightly different. And I'm more of the behind the scenes. I work in the shadows per se. I'm usually at my desk, and he's usually out there shaking hands with people. So I do a lot of the production work for audio and video, and then a lot of the just copywriting and um, content ideation and just answering clients like more technical questions within the business. And we both kind of come together in that. Any kind of like coaching that our clients might have, we both kind of have different answers for different things for them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, are you, let's see, are you the only two working in the company? Do you have other folks helping with editing or do you have employees, anything like that?
Yeah, so we have two contractors that work overseas. They help us with the editing, the production, and I help manage them and lead them, so they know exactly how to replicate what we're trying to build, from uh, a project to project basis. And it's
Okay.
always kind of evolving. So yeah, it's really fun and interesting. But working with people is definitely a really hard thing to do.
Tell me more about that. Yeah, how is that a challenge?
Um, I think when it comes to leadership, clarity is leadership, and it can be very difficult to understand even in your own head where your vision of where you want things to go, and then translating that skill set to the team can be very difficult as well, because obviously there might be some skills that you need to teach them, and that maybe you aren't necessarily 100% confident in yourself either. So it's kind of this like chicken and the egg situation too. And so, yeah, it's really interesting because we work with, a lot of different clients in a lot of different industries. We work in the, financial services space. We work with, health and wellness coaches, and we work with, leadership advisors. And it's kind of interesting because like we get to learn a little bit about leadership through producing our clients' podcast. And there's always like different takeaways that we're taking away from there, and just sharing that back and forth. Just really makes for this like interesting dichotomy, where we're kind of learning together on a lot of different things. And that that's just like this always evolving process. And there's the industry with media is always changing. So it's always hard to kind of be on top of things, and have your skill set just like keep up with trends and whatnot.
Definitely. Can you dive into some of the challenges with with that, with the keeping up?
Yeah. Here's an interesting example. So like a lot of podcasters, when they think podcasting, they think short form media, and being omnipresent on a lot of different channels. So like it would be silly to have a podcast where you're not repurposing the video, right? Like if you're not chopping that up into clips and reels and being active on social media. Um, but that's not necessarily true. Like you can have a podcast and it be an audio format and it be a successful show. You don't necessarily have to be on social media. And with that, like there's just like a lot of decisions, to make based on those types of where how you want to approach everything. Sorry, I kind of forgot the initial question there, Kay. I might have taken that on a little bit of a tangent, but
No, no, it was good. It was the question was what are some of the like what's the challenge of it was like growth. No, I'm trying to remember how I worded it, but what you said was very, yeah, was very on. So
okay.
yeah, it was very on. Just the deep dive into the challenges in I know we covered like communications with coworkers, but it was oh, as the landscape changes as the, as a podcaster.
Are you asking the question there?
Yeah, that was
Like, what
the
are some
question.
challenges,
Yeah,
that we've experienced as the landscape changes?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going through that example of just like how everyone feels like you need to be on video, but that might not necessarily be right for you. And I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of those decisions within not just podcasting, but business in general, where you see the flock going one direction, and it's easy to get pulled that direction without necessarily taking a step back and assessing, is this right for me?
Mhm.
Um, I think you had teed up whenever you sent me the, preparation for the recording today. There was just like a question on there where it's like, if you could take a step back, and now that you've been in business for 5 years, tell yourself something that you, um, might have benefited from, that you have knowledge of now that you might not have whenever you first started. And for me, that it's kind of like a bit of a loaded question in the sense that um, it's very easy to understand what works and what might not be working now as opposed from 5 years ago. When 5 years ago, I think the best course of action would have just been to start and have a little bit of momentum and iterate from there. Like once you see one thing working, you don't have to get so attached to it that you feel like you have to keep doing one thing or not. Like it's if you wanted to record a podcast and you wanted to have, let's say you had a really prevalent guest on and you wanted to shoot video for that particular guest, then you could try shooting video for that particular guest. But that doesn't mean that you need to shoot video for every guest. That doesn't mean you need to be constantly thinking about how to repurpose your podcast for social media if you don't want to have to worry about the video component. There's just like a lot of decisions that I feel like business owners get sucked up into where they don't necessarily need to um, have this be a black or white decision. You can just try things out, iterate, and go from there. If it's working, great. If it's not working, then you can shut that decision down.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good, that's like a golden nugget of this conversation for business owners of all types, that it's all learning, and we only know what we know in that moment. So do the best with that moment and choice that we can, and always looking back and reassessing, which actually brings me really nicely into the next question, which is looking at the future of your business. So instead of looking at the past, let's look to the future. Where do you see your company going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. I've always been someone that's not necessarily like looking to strike gold. And um, our business is designed to kind of have like just slow momentum and growth over time. We're kind of expanding both vertically and horizontally, with, vertically being hopefully 3 to 5 years from now, we're working with more clients, and those clients are in industries that we're really interested in, and they are, experts in their field. And then horizontally, the clients that we've been working with on an existing basis, hopefully we've expanded our relationship with them and we're helping support them and all the other areas that we can help support them with. And hopefully, their business takes time to grow as well. So ideally, we're growing together at the same time. Um, yeah.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I love to hear that. So now I want to dive into some of the challenges, because like as business owners, there are so many challenges that comes up, and sometimes there's not someone we can reach out to say, "Oh, how can we resolve this?" So like what are some of the challenges or a challenge that you're focusing on, that you're looking to grow and work through currently in the business?
Yeah, I think this would probably be something that almost everyone is going to be working on their business, and that's just meeting people that are either A, going to be great at, you know, have some kind of business relationship where you start working together, B, be like really great referral partners, or C, just like collaborate on making things within your industry. So always looking to meet new people. That's a big one, of course. Always looking to grow my skill set as well, just within the more technical side of our business in terms of the production and understanding what's working for our clients and what's not working for our clients in terms of growing and monetizing their podcast. And then lastly, I would say um, it was on the top of my head, but then I totally lost it. But I'm sure it'll come back at some point.
Yes, if it does, feel free to announce it. That's totally fine. You said something that really, I was like curious to dive in a little deeper on, was the, networking and some kind of like referrals and marketing, and that's where my brain went to. So, how are you currently gaining clients? Are you focused on more networking? Are you doing social ads? Like, what's kind of your main source of marketing right now?
Yeah, I see this with a lot of people when they first, I'm speaking to people that are, first starting out in their business and that they overthink getting their first client in the door and working with someone. That could be for free. The first client that we ever worked for, he had a show. It was called Excuses to Connect. We were very interested in just like getting some feedback from someone in terms of like what they might be looking for if they were to ever work with a professional like us. And so we worked on his show for free. And we got so much out of that relationship that it was just such a great thing, great approach to um, kind of getting your roots and growing. And then I see this with um, a lot of people, they tend to over index what it means to plan rather than just execute on some things. So like um, my sister was interested in starting a business and she wanted to do coaching. And I think she would be really great at helping coach people within getting their mindset right. And then also just on the physical level of just like eating properly, working out, all those things. And rather than just like going out and just offering to do that for someone, she hired a coach to come up with like a business plan, and they used a whole bunch of like AI models on how to create a brand around the business. And then she started working on a website, but then didn't quite understand how to use and implement the website, and also just like design the website in a way that was like friendly for her business and like didn't have a lot of like the branding elements
Mhm.
necessarily like in place to even have a website. And so like I think just like starting from square one and really kind of like doing something simple and moving forward, I think would be better than um, trying to like have this whole like cohesive brand image and plan for your business and everything.
Definitely, that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes it's just like the action items, get into it, give it a shot, make moves. So yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. Well, this has been a great conversation. Now I want to get into a fun part of our Q&A, which is called our rapid fire questions, and there's going to be
Fun.
four of them.
Okay.
Uh, so I'll ask you four questions. Just answer very top of mind.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Question number one is, what is a key to success for you?
um, yeah, I mean, obviously this goes outside the lens of, having a successful business and making money and being able to support my family. Is more so just like being able to shut my eyes and go to bed at the end of the day and know that I made a difference. And that I was, there for somebody, and not necessarily anything outside of that really. Just trying to keep it really nice and simple and just hopefully be a positive contributor to the world. Yeah.
Definitely. I love that. Number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Uh, Piece of advice that I would say, I think I talked about this a couple times already, but just if you're struggling with a decision, maybe come at it with a framework of like, I don't know, let's say you run into something where you have to decide whether or not to do it, like start a podcast. Um, I think it's good to approach it with three questions, and that being, just answering like, will this matter a year from now? And if it matters a year from now, then give it the second question, just is it important? And if it's important, then how important is it? Is this something that you should be taking urgent action on, or is this something that you should try to implement in your strategic vision within the business? And then if it is important and you need to implement it, then who can execute, whether that be a system that helps execute on whatever the decision is, or you can delegate it to somebody on your team in order to have them um, take ownership and see that through.
Those are great. I'm totally gonna steal those. Thank you for sharing that.
Uh,
Uh, number three is this is kind of a fun one. It could be a book, another podcast, it could be an article, just something that's resonated with you recently.
Yeah, I haven't read a book in like 10 years, I'll be honest. I had a streak of where like I read a lot of personal development books in college, like Atomic Habits or like Big Magic, stuff like that. There's so many great books out there. I've been listening to a ton of podcasts recently though. And a lot of the podcasts that are a lot of I guess YouTube series or podcasts that I listen to are actually like more towards my hobbies. And then it's interesting because I'll apply what I'm learning about within my hobbies into the rest of my life, and see if there's like any cross pollination there. But if you want to go check anything out, then I would say go find something that you're really passionate about, learn a little bit about it, and then see if those ideas start to extrapolate themselves not only within that hobby, but in the rest of the ideas within your business and everything.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that. That's great stuff. We have one more question in the rapid fires. This is kind of another fun one. If I gave you a magic wand and you had the power to change one aspect of your business for the better, what would it be?
um, Magic wand. I think I would have started a podcast probably 4 years ago when I was first starting working in podcasts. It's kind of funny. We only started a podcast until the beginning of this year, even though we had always been helping coaches and advisors grow their podcast, monetize their podcast within their business, but we didn't necessarily do that for our own business. So I think that's really accelerated the learning curve for us as well, and being able to kind of identify what our clients are struggling with, and helping serve them there because we have to kind of go through those things ourselves.
Hmm. Well, love that. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Before we get to our final question of the day, how can people connect with you and your business online?
Yeah, if you want to consume one thing, it would probably be our podcast. You can go check it out. It's called the Podcast Playbook. It's by me, Kyle Peters, and my brother, Justin Peters, and we talk about all things podcasting for professional service providers. So if you're a coach or advisor who's interested in starting a podcast or already has a podcast and wants to grow or monetize their podcast, then we cover a ton of topics that we think would be helpful for you.
Well, I'm definitely going to check that out. That sounds like a good one. So, thank you, Kyle, for the final question of the day. What is most inspiring to you today?
um, Most inspiring for me. There's a lot of things that are very inspiring. But I've been really inspired by the ones that I love recently. I feel like they've shown up for each other in ways that I feel like are wonderful. My girlfriend recently lost her dad, and so it's been like really challenging for her, and just seeing how my family has just like shown their love and affection for her, and knowing that she has a family within us has been like awesome.
Oh, that's very kind. I'm glad that there's a lot of support there going around. So, again, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing about yourself and your business on the show today.
Yeah, appreciate you for having me. Thanks, yeah.